There's a kid in the Spider-Man 2 PS2 game where he just can't keep a hold of his balloon. And I want to know why. Oh no, my balloon! Became so infamous in 2004. A repetitive side mission that drove players absolutely insane. 1 year later, Treyarch did something that would be absolutely unthinkable today. They gave you revenge. Not by popping the balloon. By letting you eat the kid. This is Case File FC1 UV PlayStation 2 Ultimate Spider-Man. The comic book graphic visual style that pioneered the Into the Spider-Verse movies that you love and that you see today. Absolutely they did. Absolutely they did that. You know what they also did though? They also took an innocent child and they made you eat them. They had a core mechanic that had you eat people to survive. Why? I want to know. Welcome to the archives. I'm your file clerk, Nicholas. Let's investigate. Marvel Comics was clawing out of bankruptcy and needed a home run to bring in new readers who didn't care about 40 years of continuity. This wasn't your dad's Spider-Man, written by Brian Michael Bendis, drawn by Mark Bagley. Peter Parker was 15 years old, and the world was significantly darker. The villains were terrifying. Norman Osborn wasn't a guy in a mask. He was a hulking monster. Bendis wrote the game's story himself. Bagley provided 30 original character sketches. This wasn't a licensed cash grab. It was a collaboration. This wasn't cell shading like Jet Set Radio. This was proprietary technology designed to make 3D models look like Mark Bagley drew them frame by frame. Every texture was matched to Bagley's art line by line. Color sketches went back and forth for approval. The result was a living graphic novel. Cutscenes weren't traditional cinematics. They were 3D comic panels that moved and transitioned like you were reading an actual book. Sound effects appeared as comic lettering. Later, Marvel would retrofit the game's events into issues 123 through 128. For a brief moment in 2007, you had to play the game to understand the comics. When Treyarch landed the Spider-Man license in 2004, they didn't just adapt the visual style itself. They brought it into the studio and the creators. They brought the creators into the studio. You start exactly where you want to be, web swinging as Spider-Man through a comic book version of New York. Treyarch was coming off Spider-Man 2. So, they knew what made swinging feel good. Physics-based webs stick to actual buildings. And for the first few hours, this is pure Spider-Man fantasy. You're soaring between skyscrapers, the city feels alive. And you're doing what Spider-Man does. Just what a spider can. And this part of the game is critical to what comes next. It establishes a baseline. It makes you comfortable being the hero. It lulls you into false sense of security. Don't fall for it. Right before the game rips it all away. And just like that, you're not Peter anymore. You're Eddie freaking Brock. And you're bonded with the Venom symbiote. Everything changes instantly. The world looks darker. The heroic music is gone, replaced by this menacing and industrial drone. The graceful acrobatics are gone. Venom doesn't swing, he makes these city blocks, clearing leaps, landing with bone-shattering force. He doesn't do precise combos, he thrashes with razor-sharp claws and symbiote tendrils. You can pick up a car and throw it into a building. You're not a hero, you're a weapon. This duality was the game's secret weapon. The night and day difference in how they played was groundbreaking for 2005. The boss fights prove it. As Spider-Man, you're dodging and webbing up bad guys as Venom. Your first major boss is a straight-up bar fight with Wolverine. It's ugly, it's aggressive, and perfectly establishes what it means to be Venom. But it was his health system that truly defined the experience, and where the game's darkest secret was hiding. So here's the deal. As Venom, your health it's always fading. Always. Just going down and down and down. The symbiote was hungry, and to survive, you had to feed it. You had to feed it, dude. Only there are no health packs, no power-ups. The game makes it brutally clear. You get your health back by consuming people. Not just people. Children. Just let that sink in for a second. This was a Marvel licensed T for Teen game where a core mechanic was eating civilians off the street to survive. Would that fly now? You could grab any pedestrian or villain that you just beat down, and you could just engulf them and actually take their life and fill up your health bar. This wasn't just a gimmick. It was genius game design that forced you to act like you're a parasite. You couldn't just be a cooler Spider-Man. You had to be a predator. It created this desperate, frantic loop where you were always on the hunt, the polar opposite of Spider-Man's heroic rescue missions. Same city, same streets, completely different experience. And the players noticed. As forums lit up, they were asking everybody, what's going on? Are we the bad guys? As the customer? As the person out there playing the game? The thing? The game thing? In a 2005 interview, the lead designer said, "We wanted Venom to feel morally uncomfortable. And if you're not questioning your actions, we haven't done our job." They succeeded because unlike most games where you play the villain, this one didn't let you forget what you were doing. So how did Treyarch get away with this? How did they get past the ESRB with this T for Teen rating on this game where you can eat people, children, people, your neighbor? The answer is in 3 words. Fantasy violence. 2 words. The feeding animation was carefully designed to be visceral without being graphic. No blood, no gore, just black symbiote tendrils and a body that fades away. Compare this to other 2005 games. God of War had brutal, bloody executions and got an M rating. Ultimate Spider-Man's comic book art style kept everything abstract enough to slide right under the radar. It was Bagley's art concept that was actually the key itself, from hiding it from the ESRB, or just getting away with something so gruesome. Because you know what? The ESRB actually only judges things on presentation, not concept. And here's the clever part. The game never forced you to eat innocent people. You could survive entirely on criminals and defeated enemies. The civilians were always there, always available, but technically optional. But the game knew what it was doing. It gave you the choice, knowing exactly the person you were and what you'd choose when your health bar was flashing red, you dirty. Critics praised the duality, the bold choice that made Venom feel genuinely villainous, not just Spider-Man in black. Because that's what made this game special. It didn't just let you play as the villain, it made you feel like one. And then 13 years later, Into the Spider-Verse won an award for its graphic visual style. And if you look closely, you'll see Ultimate Spider-Man's DNA everywhere. The comic panel transitions, the dynamic linking that moves with the character, the sound effects rendered as comic lettering. Treyarch proved in 2005 that you could make a 3D game look like a living comic book. Spider-Verse proved it could win an Academy freaking award. The game was ahead of its time, but not just for its graphic visual style. It's in every superhero game that came after. Spider-Man PS4 lets you play as both hero and anti-hero. The Arkham games explored Batman's moral line. Infamous built entire franchises around hero versus villain choices. But Ultimate Spider-Man did it first. And it did it without compromise. It didn't make Venom a misunderstood anti-hero. It made him a monster he was. And handed you the control. That's why this game still matters 20 years later. Not because it had some gimmick, but because it let you play as the villain, and the game actually understood that. And it understood in the mechanics that let you play as the villain. It felt great. Treyarch took a massive risk in 2005. They made a Marvel game where you could eat civilians and wrapped it into a comic book aesthetic. And then also that comic book aesthetic later would influence a movie that would be an Oscar-winning film. And then on top of that, they also proved to everybody that superhero games could be more than just power games. They made you question what it means to be the monster. Case file FC 341B321. We're gonna file this one under game that changed the game. Or game that changed the rules. Game that changed the game. Stupid. Game that changed the rules. This one we can put back in the file cabinet. The archives are always open. More case files.